Okay.
We're almost ready.
All right, then. Would you like us to go ahead and get started or wait to see if our other two commissioners join us?
Give us 1 second.
Okay, no problem.
We're live.
See, I knew what to do, almost.
We're good. We're live. We can start.
All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Do you need to take attendance individually, right?
Yes.
Okay, go. Am I doing the
I'll start with roll call.
Sorry, it's my first Zoom with y'all.
Chair Nicole Moore,
Present?
Vice Chair Clarissa Tolentino,
Present.
Commissioner D. Aikman,
Here,
Commissioner Francisco Arezon, absent, and Commissioner Ruiz Trujillo, absent.
All right, then, let's go ahead and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and we'll face our flag in office. Right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and with liberty and justice for all.
Waiting feedback.
All right. Did y'all get a chance to take a look at the agenda or do you need a minute?
Oh, I got it.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
I second the motion.
And
You need, since it's only the three of us, do you need an individual yes or no, or can we take it at that?
we're going to do roll call.
Okay, just checking.
Chair Nicole Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Clarissa Tolentino,
Yes.
Commissioner D. Aikman,
Yes,
and for the record, Commissioner Francisco Arezon is absent, and Commissioner Ruiz Trujillo are absent.
All right, with a vote of 3 yeses and 2 absent, the agenda is approved. And the first thing on the agenda, public statement. Ms. Padilla, have we received any public statements for being read for the record?
We didn't receive any public comments.
Okay. With the public comments line, we will be moving on to approval of the minutes. I get a motion to approve the minutes for March 4th. Y'all need a minute to dig them up.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. And roll call vote.
Roll call. Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Tolentino,
Present. No, you say yes. Oh, yes. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Aikman,
Yes,
and for the record, Commissioner Trujillo and Commissioner Arezon are absent.
All right. 3 yes votes. The motion is approved. The minutes from March 4th, 2020, our regular meeting, are approved. And our next order of business is going to be presented by Tim Howe, a launch of citywide parking management master plan. Thank you so much for presenting to us today.
Thank you for having me, Chair Moore and Transportation and Safety Commissioners. Yes, if we could get any of the project team members that are able to unmute and turn on your cam so we could introduce you to the group. So I'm just gonna quickly just intro why we're here presenting this tonight in this virtual format, unfortunately, but the show must go on. So last year, the city applied for a grant opportunity through SCAG, the Regional Planning Authority, and we were looking at a grant opportunity that would allow the city to have the resources to bring on a consultant team to really look at parking solutions for the city. We were looking at a grant opportunity that would allow the city to have the resources to bring on a consultant team to really look at parking solutions for the city. We were looking at a grant opportunity that would allow the city to have the resources to
You gotta close the window, Maria, in the background.
to really look at parking solutions. We've got it.
There you go.
Okay.
Howdy.
Commissioner Trujillo?
Let the record
Present.
that Commissioner Trujillo is now present as of 7:08.
Apologies. I don't know how much you caught of that. So ultimately, the city was successful in obtaining this grant opportunity. We went through an RFP process and we brought on just an excellent team. And I'm going to pass it over to them in a second, but really the lead consultant on this is KOA, and their representative here presenting tonight is Brian. And he'll introduce the other members of this great team that we have, that they assembled to really look at parking citywide, not only on street, not only in the commercial areas, not only the metered spaces, but also, residential parking on street, looking at in our central business district, in our public lots that are, the city lots, and really looking holistically, because we know that, the parking situation and challenges, in the residential neighborhoods is a different, there will be a different solution for that, or in our downtown. However, all of it needs to be able to work together, and without all the pieces making sense, you may not be making a lasting solution that allows the whole city to really prosper. So all of it initiated the project earlier this year. Making sense, you may not be making a lasting solution that we may have an echo.
So
One second. Everyone, please mute themselves when you're not speaking.
no, the problem is, hey Maria, when you log on to YouTube Live, you have to close that window in Internet Explorer, the internet window, so you're not watching the video feed too. And you get echo.
Yeah.
So the problem is, hey Maria.
Yeah. Close this
When you log on to YouTube Live, you have to close that window in Internet Explorer, the internet window, so you're not watching the video feed. You get echo.
Close this.
So the problem is,
I think that's good.
maybe it works. Okay.
My apologies. Please continue.
Not a problem. Not a problem. So this project, it's a pretty extensive project, and the project team will walk through it in some detail. Timing, obviously, 2020 has not gone the way anybody planned, and in order to do a parking study, you need real data about normal activity in a city to be able to get proper parking counts to really have meaningful data. We are totally unable to do that right now because we don't live in normal times. So some of that data collection will be delayed, and there is pretty extensive public outreach, which we're going to discuss, and Catherine Padilla is on as well, and she'll talk about that in greater detail. So we have to really, rejigger the whole, plan of how we were going to do that, in a time of social distancing and a time where folks can't gather anymore, while still being able to, make sure that we're being as inclusive as possible and getting meaningful feedback from the community. So without further ado, I'll let Brian introduce the project team, and he will be walking through a presentation. So Brian, will you be sharing a screen with the presentation?
Yeah, I have that ready.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. And I'll bring in Catherine for the last few slides. Looks like we'll have access to her audio, so that's good. Yeah, thank you, Tim. Thank you, commissioners, for having us tonight. Exciting. We've kicked this off with city staff, and now we're kicking it off with you. So we're going to have some questions for you at the end and get you involved in the planning process as we start this. But what I'm going to do is give you a overview of the project and take you through some steps that we're going to take on the project, explain the study area to you, and then we can get into some more details at the end. I think we'll take about maybe 10 minutes for this, maybe a little more. Let's see if I can. I'll just share my whole desktop. And are you seeing a cover page of a presentation?
Yes.
With a big P on the left. Okay. P for parking. Okay. So we've started a process to kind of brand this study, and Catherine may get into a little more detail about that. This is some branding we've come up with the project to make it an exciting project. Get involved, join the conversation as we go through the public outreach process, which will be starting in the next few weeks as we get our stakeholders together, and we're going to ask you for some help on that step tonight. I think okay. There we go. Okay. So just to introduce you to the consultant team, I'm with KOA. We're the project manager, but we're a planning and engineering company. So we'll be doing the parking data analysis, analyzing things, mapping, looking at geographic issues, looking at potential solutions, toolbox measures, and helping the team in that manner. JR Parking Consultants, Janice is here tonight. She'll be here to answer any questions you might have on her work on this project. But she'll be focusing on parking management, which can be just the basics of signs that limit the amount of time you can park to more stringent measures on parking districts and things like that. Pricing, there are some parking meters in the city now, and a pay station at the public parking lot in the downtown. Based on the process, based on the solutions that come out of this, those areas might expand. We might use more parking pricing if the public and the city want to go that route. So there'll be a mixture of tools, and that's going to be all determined through this very public process. Catherine Padilla and Associates waved at you earlier. She will be doing all the business group outreach because we want to talk to the downtown merchants and some of the other business leaders in the community, or business owners that have interest in this project, and also doing public outreach with our public workshops that will take place later in the project. Also doing communications to keep things clear and consistent. This is outreach and education. So she will be doing a lot of that in the public project branding, the image of the project, and all of that. That's under her purview. We have a vendor that will be helping us collect data in the field, and I'm going to go through some of the details of that. But we need a lot of staff to help us collect data because we're covering every on-street parking area in the city, the public parking lots, and any major parking lots that are off of some of the major corridors. And I'll show you how that looks on a map later on. So they'll be helping us with that. So that's the team in its entirety to get us through this process in a quality manner. So the project team experience, just quickly so you kind of know a little bit more about us. KOA and the team members done parking studies in dozens of communities. We've done studies for Long Beach, Seal Beach, El Segundo, Tustin. I'll talk a bit about the metro project that we worked on that will be coming through the city of San Fernando as it gets implemented. So we'll basically, with our team members, we'll have full capability for mapping all of the data, getting this into well understood maps that show the issues, show neighborhood issues, district issues, all of the data we've collected, the occupancy of different parking areas. And what we want to do in the public outreach is have these maps available on screen for various times in the meeting so that we can show the data that we've collected and also get comments directly on the map in a geographic way to show neighborhood issues, business issues, ideas, and get those all mapped. And what we want to do also is make that a live tool on the project website so that people can continue to comment as the project goes on. We'll basically have that record. And we hope that'll be a unique thing and a valuable thing to the project. So as a team experienced in parking planning, management, pricing solutions, and public outreach as well, we understand local neighborhood issues, the political sensitivities of parking, both for businesses, residents, institutions. We know those issues specifically for San Fernando through planning the parking analysis and outreach that we did on the East San Fernando Valley Light Rail project. We know the issues in San Fernando because that project will come up the San Fernando Road corridor and have a station not only at Silmar Metrolink adjacent to San Fernando, but also at the downtown area. There will be a station in San Fernando, and we worked. KOA and Catherine Padilla and Associates worked on public outreach and planning in this area, and most recently working on first last mile plans, where we're looking at pedestrian connections, bicycle connections to the station, and looking at potential solutions to make circulation work better. So we've hit the ground running in understanding San Fernando based on those experiences. So some of the project goals: engaging community members, getting stakeholders involved. We want this to be a problem-solving engagement whenever we bring stakeholders and the public on board, including city staff and city decision makers, because that group as a whole needs to decide on what the proper measures are that'll be implemented, not the consultant team. So we're going to do that as part of the project. Stimulating local economies, revitalizing commercial districts. We're in a special state now. This goal was set before COVID-19 hit every local community, but this is a long-term goal, and it relates to the corridor-specific plan with the two major corridors. From that plan, you've learned a lot, or there's a lot of data that was compiled for that, for economics, land use, just general planning for the city, and we're going to incorporate that because those corridors are part of our study as well. We want the city to be able to capture the full benefits of transit-oriented development. When the metro project is implemented and constructed, there'll be opportunities to orient land use, using that term, to the station area, and there'll be specific parking issues that need to be dealt with for those types of developments and for the station area to make that all work well, and the study is going to make recommendations toward that. We know we need to implement focused solutions for different districts, for different communities, but we also need to take a holistic look. If a parking change occurs on one street, it may send vehicles to the next street over. That may be a residential area next to a commercial area, et cetera. We need to look at the adjacent neighborhoods and then the effect, but also the benefits citywide. So we understand that's going to be part of the process, is both focused but holistic solutions. So that kind of gives you a feel for the project of going through those goals. So a quick overview of how we're going to do the scope, how we're going to do our tasks. So we're going to be collecting data for 2 weekday periods, like a midday and an evening, and the same again on a Saturday. Try to get to peak times in different areas, and we'll target those specifically, working with city staff, and are based on our own monitoring as things improve in the area. All of the on-street parking segments in the city, a segment, I just mean a block. There's a block here, there's the next block, those are segments. Public parking lots, all of the off-street lots adjacent to major corridors in the city, and I'll show you that map. We're going to survey everything within a 1 week period and hit everything 4 times for those weekday periods and the Saturday periods. So we'll get a good snapshot of how things work when businesses are open, then when people are home for the evening and businesses are shutting down, or there's nightlife occurring in the commercial corridors. We'll get a snapshot of everything going on, including weekend activity. So we're going to look at the trends, patterns that we see in the data, conglomerate data by district, neighborhood. Look how those are working as a whole in their individual areas. The management and pricing recommendations that we talked about, we'll start talking about that in the outreach and the workshop, and getting those together to solve parking problems, but also just plan for the future and implement the right tools. We'll be having 2 community workshops, which will be full public involvement with presentations and interaction, breaking up into groups and using that online mapping tool. 5 stakeholder meetings where we have smaller groups come in. We talk to them about the project, go through project details, get recommendations, and help shape the project through there. The final product is going to be the PMMP document, and that'll be presented in draft and final form as it develops to you, the Transportation Safety Commission, and the City Council. You won't just see the product at the end. We're going to involve you as we go forward and get your input and recommendations. The project study area is shown here on the right. All of the purple lines. Some went out of the city boundary on the bottom there, but we are working within the city boundaries. So this is every on-street parking area within the city. These kind of I don't know if you can see my cursor, but these kind of heavier lines are what we're calling the major corridors. I need to move this other window out of the way. Glen Oaks, Maclay, Brand, San Fernando, Truman, First Street. We'll be including Hubbard on this side of the city. We'll be including the off-street parking lots that are adjacent to those corridors in the study. So we want to know if there's a parking lot that has overflow conditions that may be spilling onto the street, but there may be capacity in some off-street parking lots, but the streets are full. So we want to get that picture of how this is working as a system, and that's what we're going to do by including all of these areas. So I will leave that.
Can I just ask a question real fast? Can you go
Yeah.
back to the slide? On the map, when it says off-street parking, the little blue dots,
Right.
the blue square things, by off-street parking, do you mean a lot, or you just mean where people tend to park, like where there are, what designates off-street parking?
Yeah, this would be a parking lot that basically provides the required parking for a business.
Okay, but not necessarily like a paid lot or anything like that.
Yeah, if there are any, I know there's not a whole lot in San Fernando. They're mainly in the downtown area, but yeah, where there are off-street, call them off-street, they're just parking lots. Where there are parking lots that front on these roadways, we will include those. So yeah, if there's a public parking lot that has a driveway on this street that's serving that local area, that will be included in the survey.
Okay, thank you.
Does that help?
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out if they were public or private or both, but you answered.
Oh, I see. Yeah, basically both, because that's parking supply that's used by everybody. If there's a lot that's private for a bank or something like that, we will probably still include it. But some businesses have off-site parking lots. We probably still will include it. But if it's totally private, like an apartment building, we probably won't include that in the survey. But yeah, that gives you an idea, I think. Okay. So the schedule, we've pushed back the utilization study from spring, hoping that we'll have some activity return. We should by September have a decent amount of activity return to commercial areas where we can see, you know, typical conditions. It may not be 100% of what we had 6 months ago. But we'll want to get to a point where there's decent conditions that we can see what issues are going on by collecting data. So we're going to monitor that as we move forward and make sure it's time to go and do those surveys. But that's our plan right now, is to do that in September. Going through, looking at parking requirements within a couple months of that, after we get data together, and meet with the city to review that. Looking at pricing, parking management within a couple months of there, and then within the early months of 2021, including January, but then on to February and March, we plan on having the draft and final documents together, and there will be review periods there. So this will get evaluated as we go. So the goal is to do the utilization study when activity levels have improved. First, we were talking about when things would be normal, as Tim indicated. We may be a little less than normal, but we may be at a point where we can still collect the data and get a decent snapshot of what's going on. We're going to enter into stakeholder outreach pretty soon, and Catherine shortly will give you some details of that to break down the outreach schedule a little more. But we will update the schedule again after we go through stakeholder outreach and maybe have a better idea of the schedule. So that gives you a snapshot of where we are now. Catherine, did you want to go through these 2 outreach slides, and then we have the question slide after that? I will forward these for you to make it easier.
I can see the screens, and I printed it out so I'm happy to go through this. This is important because the community engagement opportunities are really in sync with the technical goals, the technical products that Brian just went to, because all of the activities, they'll inform the product. So that's why these dates are congruent with those activities that you saw Brian lay out in the previous slide. So again, we're beginning with the commission briefings today, actually, to give you an overview of what this project is all about. Then we'll continue with stakeholder interviews, and I'll go in more detail if you wish during Q&A on this. And the idea is to do small group discussions to help define issues, concerns, even early ideas that we should probably consider through Brian's technical analysis. There'll be one group for businesses and one for residents, and we'll do those again virtually. Then we'll have a community meeting, and at that time we'll present the parking management master plan goals, the utilization results that Brian's team has compiled along with Janice, and again, the issues that we've identified through the community. Both the stakeholders and the commissioners should also weigh in on that. And then potential solutions, early ideas for solutions October 20th in 2020. And then we'll continue with stakeholder interviews again, the same things, but discuss the findings, the preliminary solutions, the input that we heard from the groups as well, from the community meetings. We'll also, at that time, we should be able to have some refined ideas, some that we can run through the community at a broader level through an online questionnaire and receive feedback in that way. And then from there, we can come up with more refined, again, solutions. Then we'll come back to you in February 2021 with some preliminary ideas, And again, and much more refined at that point, and based on both qualitative and quantitative information that we've compiled through our outreach and through Brian's research and Janice's recommendations as well. And then we'll have another community meeting. So at every point you'll see there's collection, and then synthesize what we heard from the community, and then go back out in a feedback loop, a continuous feedback loop, to make sure that we're hearing what we think we heard, and also so that no one should be surprised when we get to the end of the study. The next slide is, we'd like to open it up to questions. We want to make sure that you know that we have a call to action. A call to action for the community is join the conversation. So we're hoping that we're beginning this conversation with you here. So we'd like to know what questions we can answer for you from what you've heard in the presentation, either about the technical approach, the overall process, the expected outcome, or any of the community engagement.
I do have a question, if I may.
Go ahead, Commissioner Trujillo.
Yeah, is this gonna include the courthouse parking lots? Is there any kind of application for that will revitalize it or anything like that? The courthouse parking? Actually, you're muted.
Somehow I got the toolbar on the top of the screen and couldn't find it. Yeah, we will include that because it's a major parking lot in the Civic Center area. In terms of improvements to it, I suppose this study could lead to recommendations. You know, if we find that certain physical improvements to that parking lot may improve, you know, on street parking availability. I know that the metro, you know, station will be nearby, and that'll create a new dynamic for that area when that station opens. And there might be things that need to be done to maybe just continue to provide the courthouse parking, but also make that work as a system. So it could lead to some suggestions that could be made to the county courts, right? To improve that parking lot. Does that help, Commissioner Trujillo?
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Commissioner Arizon or Commissioner Aikman, did either of you have any questions?
I don't have a question. I know the areas along Brand Boulevard. I live in the North Brand area, and I know what creates a lot of havoc in my northern neighborhood, and that's major schools that have been placed in small places that like in two schools on a cul-de-sac, an end where they can't get out. The churches, one church in particular always has a large congregation, and they do not have enough parking there. They have a large parking lot, but it's never enough. And I know they encroach upon the neighborhoods in the area that they're in. That comes from years ago, poor planning on the part of the city. But I don't know how you can take care of those things after it's been done and used. So I am concerned about it. It's a problem here in our city.
I know you said that you were looking at a Saturday, or did you say a weekend or just a Saturday?
Yeah, the concept is that we would include, in addition to the weekday surveys, two Saturday sweeps, basically in the afternoon and in the evening. I know that the church use obviously would have major demand on. You may have some events on a Saturday, but it would be a Sunday issue.
Yeah. Any way that it could be done on a we've had additional complaints in this commission about the fact that church often aligns with sometimes sports in the same areas.
You say sports?
Yeah, like sometimes there will be church
Okay.
meeting at the same time that there are sports having games, and people will complain about traffic congestion at those times.
I see.
And so I think it would be helpful to get a study of Sundays, especially because I know there are many cities that feel that enforcing parking on Sundays is problematic.
Yeah, sure.
So I think it would be important to include that in your study, from what I hear Commissioner Aikman saying, as well as our prior community engagement.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, we may, those times are flexible. It was our initial concept. So yeah, we could potentially do a Saturday. We'll come up with a good time, maybe Saturday afternoon or midday, and then do a Sunday as well. Yeah, because parking regulations change between Saturday and Sunday. Maybe a completely different dynamic in some neighborhoods. And yeah, when church is going on, those sporting events are kind of overlapping with church services or adjacent to them.
From what I understand, occasionally.
I see. Interesting. Okay.
Two different locations, right? The one at the school, going on at the school and church at the same time?
Right, but it's all very tight. So because
Okay.
the churches are often located right next to schools that host sporting events that are located next to parks where people just normally are, located right next to downtown business areas where people are just trying to get their normal errands run. It ends up being quite a bit of just congestion. And this is a neighborhood that is densely populated as well. And on Sundays, you have a lot of people home. So that contributes to the congestion as well.
Yeah, we want to incorporate the kind of the interplay between adjacent uses like that are kind of doubling up on demand for neighborhood parking. So that's a good suggestion. We can look into that.
Commissioner Trujillo, no, Commissioner Tolentino. Sorry, Trujillo, you already spoke. Did you have any questions?
No, not at this moment. They were all actually answered.
Commissioner Arizon, did you have any questions?
No, none. It's well presented. Thank you.
I had a couple of questions.
Can I suggest something?
Yeah.
If I could, this is not the only opportunity, but this is certainly one of the key opportunities for the commission to provide feedback. The more specific the feedback and the more concrete examples you give, probably the better off we will be in looking into those. So if you have specific intersections or specific parks in mind, don't be shy about being specific now. And if you are shy about being specific now, Catherine provided her email address on the slide, and you can send comments her way regarding that too. We were fully expecting that there would be some comments that were very specific. My neighbor does this, or I know that at this time on this street there's this issue. So we'll take them all.
Have them in prior minutes, so I'm gonna have to go dig back through our minutes because there were specific ones that I'm trying to remember what the exact intersections were. So I took down your email, Catherine. Thank you.
Great.
Go back. I did want to just ask a couple questions real fast. You said as things improve or as things get better, and I guess so I have two questions. One would be for the consulting firm, and then one would be for our city staff. My question for the consulting firm is, what does better? What sort of manifestations are you looking for? Because I'm a little concerned about the timeline in terms of schools.
Yeah, I see.
So let me explain sort of where I'm coming from. I've been listening to the California Department of Education webinars, and they are strongly urging families who desire to keep their children home.
That's right.
To do so. And then they're also strongly urging schools to do things like hybrid models and staggered starts and staggered releases, as well as possibly even like every other day. And so I don't know that we're going to have any semblance of what normal parking looks like this fall.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if by normal you just mean like regular like businesses kind of open, or what metrics you're looking at. And then I also was wondering, just because I don't know if we'll ever have it in this year, I was wondering if the city, do we have data from like a year ago or 2 years ago, any data at all about what parking looks like in schools that we could provide to the consulting firm?
No, we don't.
That's unfortunate.
So on that larger question, and yeah, that's something we have to grapple with, and bringing up that news about the school districts is very timely, because yeah, that's been coming out as school districts try to plan for fall. We basically want conditions where there's good activity in the commercial areas. The residential areas have kind of calmed down from everyone being home 20 most of the day, 24 hours a day, so that we get that typical play. The commercial residential boundaries are really important, because when there's a lot of activity in a commercial area, it spills over into the residential area. When there's a lot of density and car ownership in the residential area, sometimes the commercial spaces are taken over by residences. So that's one thing we want back. But yeah, if a lot of institutions are kind of not at maximum capacity and their effects are not kind of active, we may want to kind of use that to consider the implementation date. So
Yeah,
that has to be determined. Yeah.
that you keep a very close eye on whatever the reentry plans end up being of. Here's some of the schools that I would suggest keeping an eye on. Obviously, LAUSD, specifically San Fernando Middle School. So far, it seems like that each site is going to be able to develop a fairly site-specific plan. So San Fernando Middle School has been a common, it's brought up frequently in our meetings in terms of congestion and traffic issues and parking control. And so San Fernando Middle School's reentry plan will be something to pay attention to, as well as Morningside Elementary. That's also right down that downtown corridor there.
Okay.
And then also thinking of the area that Commissioner Aikman was mentioning, Nueva Esperanza Charter is right there in an area that has very little parking.
Nueva Esperanza, okay.
And that's a charter, so they won't be doing whatever LAUSD does. They'll develop their own plan. Right. So to keep your eye on specifically those few, and then I'm thinking that possibly a way to alleviate some of the ambiguity about it, as I know that you said you're doing stakeholder interviews, I think we need to really specifically make an engaged effort to seek parents of school-aged children who have their kids in these schools, in these schools that are specific hotbeds for parking issues, so that we can sort of get a feeling for what they're doing and how it differs from their usual routine and whatnot. And maybe when you mentioned also questionnaires too, perhaps we should get questionnaires on what people anticipate will be the differences in their morning routine or, you know, transportation routine in general, when all restrictions on schools are lifted, because I think that you'll probably see slightly more normal business activity in the time period in which you're looking at the study, but schools are going to be the one thing that I don't know will be quite the same. So yeah, we could probably alleviate some of those questionnaires.
Those are definitely special uses that affect, as you're saying, all the neighboring uses in the area and the neighborhood. So yeah, we need to be aware of that. That's good.
Nicole, may I ask, or Ms. Moore, may I please ask, what was the second school you mentioned? I know Brian got it, but I didn't.
Morningside Elementary.
I recognize that now.
It's right on the downtown, right off Maclay and the downtown corridor, pretty close to the Civic Center. So that's, I'm just looking for areas where you got a lot of people going in the morning.
Okay. Now, just to let you know, we are asking, I'm going to finish the last bullets, but we are asking the commissioners to help, please. And because we know you talk to a lot of people, you have your neighbors, you have credibility, you have all of your interactions with your relatives and so on. But please let people know that the parking study is underway, and that community participation is a big goal of ours. Join the conversation. It's not just a call of action. We really sincerely need to hear their voices. And then again, I'll follow up with you, or if you would please take my email. We would like suggestions of stakeholders that we should interview. And contact info if you have it. If you don't, I can probably research and find people. Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
I took your email down and I have a few ideas I want to go through, as I said, our prior minutes before I email you, but I will definitely get back to you.
Okay, thank
Great.
you.
That's great.
And at this time, Captain, are we recruiting possible ad hoc members that can kind of be participants in the project for, from beginning to end?
We would like to very much, because part of our goal is to look for project champions. That means informed people who can, who are representative of a broad swath of your stakeholders and that are credible. So, and that can really promote this study. So yeah, I would love to create like an ad hoc group of stakeholders that we can continually use again as that feedback loop that we've talked about, to distribute meeting flyers, to help distribute questionnaires and so on.
Well, I'll make a motion to form an ad hoc partner.
Is that me?
Would anyone like to second that motion?
I'm sorry, Chair. You broke up on your motion, so I didn't get to hear what it was.
I would like to make a motion that we form an ad hoc committee to partner with the consulting team in promoting and brainstorming how we promote these stakeholder participation efforts.
You said I'm sorry, you said an ad hoc, you said?
Yeah, so and basically because the problem is we can't violate the Brown Act by having group emails. And so if I were to email you, Commissioner Trujillo, and I was also to email, Commissioner Aikman or Vice Chair Tolentino, and then we were to brainstorm online about what solutions we could think of to increase stakeholder participation, that would actually be in violation of the Brown Act. So one thing that we can do is that we can have just two of us, no more than two of us, but two of us could form an ad hoc committee, which is a small committee with a specific purpose. And if there's only two of us on it, then we're not in Brown Act violation, as long as we report back the activities of our ad hoc and our commission meetings.
Okay.
On our commission who feels particularly fond of the idea.
Well, are you asking for people to apply for that?
Well, first we actually have to make a motion to form the ad hoc, and then we can choose who's on it. But it sounds like that would be the easiest way, because we can't discuss this amongst ourselves in between the meetings unless we have an ad hoc. So do we like the idea of having an ad hoc, or do we
not? Sure, why not? So I'll make a motion to do that.
I didn't make the motion, but you can second it. So thank you for.
Oh, did you already make a motion? I'm sorry.
That's
my headphones kind of like. I'll second that then.
Okay. Let's go ahead and roll call vote then.
Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Tolentino,
Oh, yes.
Commissioner Aikman,
Yes.
Commissioner Arizon,
Yes.
Commissioner Trujillo.
Yes.
All right, so then our next matter is to figure out who would be on the ad hoc. Does anyone feel particularly like this is something that you feel passionate about?
I do.
sounds like you have a lot more knowledge in the area than I do, living in one of the more busy parts of town as well. Anybody else feel a burning desire to be on it?
Well, I live near a couple of schools that were mentioned, so I feel like that would be an area that would
And I-
fit my neighborhood.
You mentioned before being pretty aware of some of the issues at drop-off time and whatnot.
Yeah.
All right, so then I would nominate Commissioner Aikman and Vice Chair Tolentino to be on our new Parking Solutions Ad Hoc Committee.
I would like to second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
I think we have to go roll call again because it's Zoom, sorry.
Yes. Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Tolentino,
Yes.
Commissioner Aikman,
Yes.
Commissioner Arizon,
Yes.
Commissioner Trujillo.
Yes.
Thank you so much. So we have found our new ad hoc committee. And then Maria, would you be able to provide Kathy with the, sorry, is it Kathy or Catherine?
I think you're muted.
Me?
Kathy's fine.
Okay. If you could provide Kathy with their contact information, and perhaps the three of you could have a time to have further discussions with Catherine after she gathers suggestions. So
Will do.
I'll be emailing Catherine after.
awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so moving on then.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Are we ready to move on with that then? Are we good? No? Okie dokie.
Very much.
Commission communication. Let's start with Commissioner Arizon. Commissioner Arizon, any matters you'd like to communicate to our commission?
Not at this time.
All right, Commissioner Trujillo?
Let me see. Okay, I want to make sure I'm not muted. No, not really. I think the only thing, I don't know, I got to go back over the notes to see what the follow-up was for the alley behind the gym where the kids were working out and whatnot. The other thing is more of an announcement. We are planning to do a COVID-19 testing. We have some friends, Medical Mobile Mission along with CSV, who are looking for a place in the city of San Fernando to do free testing. So I just wanted to announce that. They plan to do it for, I think they want to do like 8 hours for 6 days for 2 weeks. So if anybody has any ideas later, I just wanted to share that with you. You could contact me later if you have any recommendations. That's it.
Commissioner Aikman?
I really appreciate everybody really taking care of themselves during this epidemic. I'm going a little crazy. I'm gaining weight. I've got hair everywhere.
No way.
But it's been staying home and trying to stay healthy and keeping my family healthy. And I want you to know that when you talk to our police officers, since the riots began, our chief of police have been doing yeoman work to keep our city safe from rioting and getting out the troops and getting them to respond to calls right away. And we have our water system to protect, and we're glad to have our own police department that responds to our issues. And that's about it. Good luck, everybody. Hopefully next time we'll be able to be together and discuss things with each other and not through a television.
It is very good to see all of you again, though, even if it is just tiny boxes. Vice Chair Tolentino?
Yes. I just wanted to ask you if there's an update on the Glen Oaks project, because I know that our last meeting together, it was mentioned that we were going to start working on Glen Oaks. I don't know if it was at the end of March or April, but I just wanted to ask an update on that for the Glen Oaks project.
It's next on our agenda for staff communication.
Uh-huh.
But I have been emailing with, I see that Martin is Martin still with us as our interim? He's no longer. Unfortunate. But in March, while he was here, I was emailing with Martin about that and was assured that it was continuing as planned despite the pandemic. So I feel confident that Manuel will have wonderful things to tell us about that.
Let's hope so.
I just wanted to, in response somewhat to what Commissioner Aikman said, and also just in general, I just wanted to communicate that I think that the city's bulletins have been helpful. I appreciate our Nixle system. And I think that it is a testament to the quality of our San Fernando Police Department, particularly as of late, that we have not had as much civil unrest here. And I did go through and take a look at their training manual. And I wanted to note that I was very pleased with how comprehensive in de-escalation techniques and in just really respect and protecting the sanctity of life and treating people kindly, that was very infused into their training manual. And I think that that is why things have been so calm here. And I have nothing but prayers and good hopes for continued peace in our city. So I know we are missing our usual presence of members of our police department in our meeting this evening. And I am not surprised, but thank you so much. Just putting it publicly out there for the fact that things have been calm here. And without further ado, our staff communication. I know we are so excited to hear about our upcoming projects. Manuel, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to start with the annual street resurfacing project, which is the one that's been ongoing since late last year. We finally got the contractor back out here last week to do some trench repair on Lazard between 4th and 5th. I'm still waiting on the schedule from them to continue the paving on Lazard and Workman. But hopefully this month we'll get that done. Glen Oaks Boulevard project, I believe, is in its 3rd or 4th week of construction. Currently, they are doing traffic signal modifications. They're going to start concrete work shortly, I believe this week, if not next week, which includes sidewalk, curb and gutter, the ADA ramps, driveways. And the project is expected to be completed sometime in September or October, pending weather conditions and other factors. We currently did some restriping at parking lots 4 and 5. Those are the ones that are along Truman, between Brand and San Fernando Road, San Fernando Mission Boulevard, I mean. So we did full restriping of every stall. We restriped the ADA parking stalls and upgraded the ADA parking signs too. So everything there should be visible now. I know it's not on the project updates, but the speed humps on the alley of north of San Fernando Road. I'm currently working on the staff report to take it to council because of the whole COVID thing and losing Martin. We kind of couldn't continue with that, but I'll be working on that and hopefully take it to council soon. We'll be installing the speed humps on the block between Maclay and Mission and upgrading the ones on the other block that were installed a couple years ago.
Have they been ordered already, or we're just waiting to order and install them?
We're waiting for council to approve it and approve the funding too.
Okay.
Once we get that, then I'll go ahead and place the order. That's all I have for right now.
Maria, did you have anything to add? All right then. All right, if there are no further objections, I would like to hopefully adjourn tonight in memory of George Floyd. May he rest in power. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn this meeting of June 3rd, 24th, 2020, 3rd, 3rd, 2020.
I second the motion.
All right.
All in favor?
Thank you. Aye.
Do we have a roll call for that one?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
Chair Moore,
Oh, sorry about that.
Yes, I motion that we adjourn.
Vice Chair Tolentino,
Thank you, Maria.
Commissioner Aikman,
Thank you.
You have to say yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Trujillo,
Yes.
Commissioner Arizon.
Yes.
Meeting is adjourned at 8:02 p.m. Y'all have a great evening and a great week, and I hope to see you in person very soon.
God bless everybody.
Good night.
Safe, everyone.
Stay safe. Stay safe. God bless.
God bless.